You know, for decades, the absolute second you mentioned UFOs, people immediately pictured tinfoil hats and wild, late-night internet conspiracies, right? But then, on May 8th, 2026, the game completely changed. The US government suddenly dropped a massive trove of previously classified documents, videos, and images. And just like that, the UFO conversation moved out of the fringes and literally onto the front pages of global news. So let's dive into this explainer and unpack exactly what's hiding in those newly declassified files. We're going to look at the historical patterns they reveal and, honestly, the potentially darker geopolitical reality that might be hiding right behind all those alien headlines.
To really grasp the weight of this, we have to look at the caliber of the witnesses. We are not talking about some guy with a blurry camera in his backyard. In 2023, 6 highly trained federal agents gave sworn testimony to the U.S. government about a routine operation that turned into something straight out of a sci-fi movie. They described a glowing orange orb, essentially a mothership with orange wings that was launching smaller red orbs 5 separate times. When federal agents put their entire careers on the line to give a sworn statement like that, well, that drops us right into a genuine modern mystery.
Now, just to get our terms straight really quick before we dig into the unsealed data, we all know UFO stands for Unidentified Flying Object, and pop culture instantly links that to aliens. But in the military world, there's another absolutely crucial term you're going to see in these files: bogey. A bogey is the military designation for an unidentified aircraft or missile. It is a term strictly reserved for enemy combatants and tactical threats right here on Earth. Keep that in mind, because how highly trained observers classify these objects tells us a whole lot about what they might actually be.
Okay, so let's look at the data dump itself. On May 8, 2026, the U.S. Department of War published 162 previously classified UFO files right on a public webpage. And this wasn't just a boring stack of heavily redacted paperwork. The release included 28 videos and 14 images of unexplained phenomena that the public had never, ever seen before. We're talking FBI documents, Pentagon reports, NASA transcripts, the whole shebang. It's a literal mountain of data where the government openly admits, yeah, we simply cannot explain these cases.
And when you break down some of the most startling modern sightings from this release, a really bizarre pattern emerges. In 2025, a senior intelligence official in a helicopter tried to approach one of those orange orbs, and it instantly jumped 20 miles away to evade them. Instantly. In Greece in 2023, infrared sensors caught an object over the ocean taking a 90-degree turn while going 80 miles per hour. That completely defies basic physics and inertia for any known aircraft. We've got football-shaped objects in Japan, vanishing orange areas in Syria. The common thread here? An object appears, performs a maneuver that shouldn't be possible, and just vanishes.
But it doesn't stop in our atmosphere. Let's take this to space because things get even weirder. During the 1965 Gemini 7 mission, astronaut Frank Borman radioed Houston reporting a bogey at 10 o'clock high. Remember our definitions? He used a terrestrial war term in the vacuum of space, insisting it wasn't just booster debris. During Apollo 11, Buzz Aldrin reported flashing lights and a massive, laser-like reflection on the moon. And maybe the most intriguing of all, a photo from Apollo 17 shows 3 unexplained dots in a tight triangular formation above the lunar surface. A 2026 preliminary analysis actually suggests those could be genuine physical objects.
So the crucial point is this: we have decades of these sightings. They're defying physics, they're being witnessed by astronauts and federal agents, but if you actually take a step back and plot all these sightings on a map spanning over 70 years, a very terrestrial pattern emerges, and it forces us to ask this one pivotal question. Why do UFOs always seem to visit U.S. military bases? You know how people joke about aliens always attacking New York or LA in the movies? Well, in real life, they seem completely hyper-focused on American military installations. To figure out why, we just have to look at the history. If you compare the eras, the geographic clustering is undeniable. Back in the 1950s and 60s, sightings heavily clustered around the Soviet border, Germany, and the western U.S., literally the ultimate Cold War hotspots. Fast forward to the 2020s, and where are they? Iraq, Syria, the Strait of Hormuz, the Indo-Pacific. The locations perfectly track with exactly where the U.S. military is most active and where it's deployed its most advanced radar and monitoring systems. It's not random at all. It's inherently tied to human military geography.
To truly understand how this pattern started, we have to travel all the way back to the origins of the hysteria. June 1947. Pilot Kenneth Arnold reports seeing 9 objects moving at 1,200 miles per hour, skipping through the air like a saucer on water. The press ran with it, coined the term flying saucer, and boom, a cultural phenomenon was born.
Just weeks later, a farmer finds strange debris in Roswell, New Mexico. The military initially calls it a flying disc before backtracking. By 1952, unexplained objects were swarming over Washington, D.C. and getting caught on radar. The idea spread like wildfire, and the public was convinced we were being visited.
But the reality behind all that hype was entirely terrestrial. For decades, the public Roswell story was all about a crashed alien disk and recovered extraterrestrial bodies. But in 1994, the military finally declassified the truth. Project Mogul. The debris in Roswell was actually from top-secret acoustic spy balloons designed to monitor Soviet nuclear tests. And what about those alien bodies people swore they saw? Well, a 1997 report confirmed they were literally just anthropomorphic test dummies used in high-altitude drops. We were spying on the Soviets, a balloon crashed, and a myth was born.
Which leads us to a pretty fascinating strategic revelation. By maintaining the whole UFO illusion, the military got a massive bonus. Letting the public believe in aliens actually prevented international crises. Think about it. If the Soviets knew the US was spying on their nuclear tests, it could have triggered World War III. Plus, it allowed the CIA to test incredibly advanced spy planes, like the U-2 and the SR-71 Blackbird, right in plain sight. If a civilian saw a top-secret plane doing impossible speeds, the government was perfectly happy to let them think it was a flying saucer. It was the ultimate convenient smokescreen.
So, bringing us back to the present, let's look at the hard data we actually have today. The Pentagon established the AARO office to investigate every single UFO claim from 1945 to 2023. And in their comprehensive February 2024 report, the conclusions were incredibly stark. Evidence of extraterrestrial tech? Absolutely none. Evidence the U.S. is reverse engineering alien craft? No. When they actually managed to identify these objects, what were they? Entirely human or natural origins. We're talking drones, spy planes, satellites, rockets, weather balloons, you name it.
Look, as much as we might all secretly want to discover alien life, we have to stay grounded in reality. When we're weighing blurry infrared videos and weird eyewitness accounts against the strict laws of physics, we really have to lean on this foundational scientific principle. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. A low-resolution video of a glowing dot on a screen is fascinating for sure, but it is not extraordinary evidence of interstellar space travel.
In fact, when we apply that exact principle, a much more logical and, frankly, way more urgent explanation snaps into focus. When you weigh those recent mothership and football-shaped sightings against documented reality, it's like a giant puzzle coming together. China has already developed a mothership drone program capable of releasing swarms of smaller drones. And remember that Chinese high-altitude spy balloon that got shot down over the US in 2023? Suddenly, this extraterrestrial mystery just dissolves into a very modern, very real geopolitical reality of foreign surveillance.
And that brings us to the exact danger of this May 2026 data dump. The former chief of the AARO office explicitly warned against releasing these 162 files without proper analysis or context. By just dumping unexplained videos onto a public website without any military or scientific explanation, the government is basically throwing gasoline on a fire. As the chief pointed out, doing this will only fuel speculation, conspiracies, and pseudoscience.
So you really have to wonder, why release them right now? Well, if we look at the source analysis, critics are raising some serious questions about the timing. The argument being made by political analysts is that the Trump administration's release of these files is actually a calculated political strategy. Critics argue that this data dump is intended to use UFO hysteria as a deliberate media distraction, specifically aimed at overshadowing administrative controversies and pulling the public's attention away from major scandals, like the release of the Epstein files. It's a pretty classic maneuver: use a mystery to dominate the news cycle.
And I think that is the ultimate takeaway from this explainer. The UFO files are real, the sightings are real, but the aliens, they're almost certainly a mix of advanced human technology, optical illusions, and geopolitical espionage. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought to chew on the next time you see a sensational UFO headline. When the government suddenly decides to be super transparent about the unexplained, are they finally revealing the truth to us, or are they just making sure we're looking exactly where they want us to look?